Hello and welcome to Katté and Co podcast. My name is Dawn and I am joined today by Simon, who is head of social.
Hey, Don.
Hello. And also Alex, who is head of search.
Hello, Dawn.
You might recognize their names because they've been here a couple of times, but the thing is, they really know a lot about AI, and that is what we're talking about. It's something that we need to have a view on as an agency, and I think we do. But it's also important to just understand what it can do, what it can't do. But to begin with, I think we need to really chat about what AI is at the minute. How would you understand it,
Wow, okay.
Simon?
So what is AI? It's a big question, a question that's probably been changing in the last few years. And to explain, I guess 2 years ago or 3 years ago, when in the context of, for example, paid media and how companies like Google and Meta would define what was going on, the automation, the use of algorithms to match things and manage things in the background, they never really said AI. Back then, AI was a bit like, Skynet level of intelligence, really, like equating to human cognition level of intelligence. And that has not really happened yet, but now everyone's talking about AI really being out there.
Elon Musk said something very recently. He said within a year, we're probably going to see AI that is smarter than an average human. So I can't remember what it's called, and I also don't believe that's going to be the case because Elon Musk promises things and it never happens anyway. But there is a difference essentially between AI being really, really good at something, at one specific task, which it already is better. And even if we think about things like Excel, let's say, it's not necessarily AI, but it is already better at calculations that are really, really quick, right? So we do have AI that's already better, but what we're promised that is going to happen sooner or later is that AI is going to become smarter than humans.
Yeah, at the moment, I think what we see AI being is AI that's really good at some things. And then that becoming a big buzzword in the industry, investors wanting to get more involved, so everyone then going back and claiming, yes, I have AI, we actually have had AI all along. And Meta, Google, for example, in the context of paid media, now say that a lot of what happens in the background is AI based, and they have been evolving the algorithms to be a bit more like what AI is, and they have been developing personal assistants and their own large language models. So in a way, yeah, that is AI as the way it's defined now. But as Elon Musk says, we're still not there when it comes to, artificial general intelligence, which is really an artificial intelligence that can replicate humans in most ways or overcome humans in most ways. So yeah, not there yet. But yeah, that's what AI is today. Just
Hmm.
like the more limited version.
I find it really interesting that, as you say, a couple of years ago, AI definition was really different, and it just shows how language really changes and our understanding of things change all the time. So on that, thinking about ChatGPT, it came out relatively recently. We had smartphones for what, 15 years or whatever, and so even in comparison to that, it's really nothing. And everyone seems to be jumping on AI. And at the moment, I think ChatGPT has got 180 million users as of last month, if the stat is right. And for just to compare, Pinterest, I think, has got about 450 million users, which is not really that. I mean, Pinterest has been around for a very long time. So is AI really that important? Are we talking about AI for a reason? Is everyone else talking about AI for a reason? Or is it just another fad? Because my inbox is filled with emails on a daily basis saying, oh, wow, this is amazing product. If you only pay £500 per month, we will give you the best thing ever. Your clients are going to be so happy. You should definitely run it. What are your thoughts on this, Alex?
I think the thing that ChatGPT did incredibly well was just nail the user interface in a way that made it familiar and comfortable to people. So we've been educated for decades about you type into a text box and you get some search results back through Google. And they effectively replicated that interface and said, type a question into ChatGPT and you will get a result. and that result happened to be very impressive based on the large language models that they were using. So I think what they did was they took a lot of what the industry was already trying to do with things like voice assistants, and they put it into a paradigm that made sense for everybody. And I think what's happening now is more and more people are discovering this interface, and they are, as far as I can tell, they are utilizing it for specific use cases, but we are also already running up against the limitations of that kind of interface. And what we're seeing from Meta and from Google is attempts to understand how a similar interface can be incorporated into the platforms. So we're seeing it being incorporated into campaign creation on Google Ads, for instance. What we're not seeing, and what I'm particularly interested in, and I think it's what you guys on the social team are doing a lot of, is trying to figure out the limits of that text input as a prompt and how much you can actually drive things like creative forward using that as an input method. So one of the things I was really interested in talking to both of you guys about was, do you feel like you're already coming up against those limitations of like text driven creative input? And do you feel like there are other ways that you want to be exploring to interact with these tools?
Well, for me, ChatGPT doesn't, and tools like that, large language models, I'm still not really done with the limitations. I feel like when it comes to the way I see it, that ChatGPT is a bit like an extra little brain there that I have, and that can help me to solve lots of problems.
Your best friend.
Yeah, it's almost like, I talk to it, all the time. But yeah, when it comes to marketing, it's like you just give it information and you ask it to solve your problems and to tell you about what the audience is like and what the consumer behaves like, and to give you ideas of how to communicate with them. So, so there's an infinite possibilities on how you can actually leverage that. And so I feel like it's just the beginning of how useful the tool can be as we kind of learn how to speak to it properly, and and just get a bit more we can leverage and give value to clients when it comes to paid media.
Sorry, but just to stop you there, I've seen posts on Facebook and just from friends of friends, artists saying, please, if you have any work, can you let me know? Because I've got no work anymore. So
Because
are
of
we do
AI.
exactly? Because you've got Midjourney. So like, oh, beep beep bop, can you make me this creative? And then you run the creative. Are we doing the right thing? And actually, should advertisers do that? Should we be telling our clients, you want to do this thing, and maybe it's going to save you money, maybe not, but is what implications does that have? Is that a recommendation what we should make? Because some people would argue that's not the case.
I mean, ethically, or because I think you
What
cannot
is creativity, Simon?
look. The truth is,
Great philosophy podcast, I would say.
yeah. Look, there are some careers that are going to start disappearing, and it's not me saying this. This is just what's happening. So when you look at people that just do math all day at work, or that do accounting, or that do graphic design, all this stuff is starting to get automated, and it's one of the simpler things that are being automated, not because these jobs are simple, but because these models are really good at replicating that. So what your friend should be doing is trying to leverage these tools to
I will
actually
tell her.
do more work. Yeah. So instead of being, oh, this is replacing me, I think that the focus should be on how can I leverage this tool to actually have like an assistant that can help me do that work. And that's what we're doing like in our agency. We're not saying, oh no, this is going to replace us. We're saying, oh wow, this is like extra work, extra resource. We have to actually get more stuff done better, faster. So yeah, definitely.
I was going to ask that. So you guys both work on kind of the creative side of things. If I was to ask you to just create an image for me based on a very simple brief, how long would that take you to create a single, let's just say rectangular image that you think that you could put in front of me? If you had to just give me a sense of that.
It depends. Sometimes it's like bam, it's done in one go. But usually it takes much more than that. And I think the big limitation is really, for example, if you want something where your brand is in that image, or like you have packaging or a garment or something, then that's still not easy to do. You still need to play around. You still need a graphic designer to actually jump in and fix and be in the middle of all of that. But if you just ask me, do me an image of a lemon, then yeah, that's very easy to do, and you don't need to go and photograph a lemon. That's basically it. So I guess production of content is the first liability, I think, in when it comes to AI coming into the equation. It's much easier to produce content of random things, the things that are just known, that exist already significantly, but like content already of lots of lemons online that AI can just come in and use, so you don't need to go and shoot a lemon.
So Simon, I was saying that AI, when it comes to producing images, is just a bit mediocre.
Producing images as in...
Just if Alex told you I need this image, it'd be like, it's just
Unless
not
it was
great.
of a lemon.
Unless it was a lemon.
Well, I don't know. We've used really good imagery for experimental ads that we've been doing, and the results are amazing because you can add the whole kind of art direction to the lemon. So it's not just a lemon in a very limited environment. You can actually cut the lemon with a background light and in black and white, or adding stuff. And so you can really create a direction that it would be much more expensive and well, harder to achieve, sometimes even impossible to achieve. You can create environments that don't exist. So yes, you can create a lot more. There are still limitations that I think going to be dealt with in the next year or 2 years.
Okay, so what you're saying, I will just repeat it back to you. So just to make sure we're on the same page, what is happening that at the moment AI is not really replacing anything in your view. It's more that it's becoming a bit of a helper. So you can't replace a human. It's just really good at certain tasks.
Yeah, I think it's going to replace some humans for sure. Look, there's no escaping for that, but I do think it's not able to just replace. You cannot really replace a department. I don't think so.
Okay.
And I think clever graphic designers in this case will be able to then expand their skills to just provide more value using AI rather than just let AI replace them.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really only about design though, is it? And as we touched upon, the understanding of AI really shifts through time. And what we call AI, we've had quite a few tools in the past already that would be much better at doing something. So let's say there's PMax in search, there's Advantage Plus on social. These are completely new products that are a lot more automated than they used to be. And I remember in the past, because I'm in social myself, I remember probably about 6 years ago, you would put some ads out there and they all would spend the same. So we have to manually pause everything and unpause everything. And I think a lot of clients still think from that perspective. And at the same time, there's a lot of people who, if you tell them, you know what, you should run PMax, and I think most of our clients do at this point, but from experience, clients are still a bit wary of it, but at the same time it looks like what PMax does, let's say, is really kind of the same as what we're seeing with those new tools, at least at the moment. So Alex, do you think that there's a difference in how, from your experience, how have clients and been responding to things like that? And was it difficult to ask people, you know what, or to tell them this is your best bet, PMax is?
Yeah, I think it comes back to your brand, and your brand is your most important asset. And there is a very understandable desire to maintain complete control over what your brand is doing, where it's appearing, how it looks. And in this kind of asset-driven, AI-driven environment, there is, to an extent, a requirement for a relinquishment of that control. But I think what we're finding is that if you actually use, at least in Search's case, if you use the tools as designed and you provide them with the highest quality assets that you can, that will provide a more brand focused result than if you were to try and hack your way out of the problem. There's no getting around it. There is a certain level of automation in how these formats are assembled. But if you provide it with the raw materials that are of high enough quality, then you will be still getting a result that is good for your brand. Which is not to say that you're necessarily going to feel comfortable with that initially, but we've been seeing through testing asset-rich Performance Max that the actual results you're getting, and more importantly, the reach that it provides, is much, much higher than if you were to try and maintain total control over how your brand is portrayed online. So it's completely understandable that being a difficult transition. But if you're using performance marketing to drive performance, then that's the best approach, because the numbers actually show that is the best way to find new customers, to drive growth, to re-engage your existing customers. So it's a bit of a mindset shift where it used to be highest quality creative in every single placement, whereas now it's almost like provide the raw assets, trust the AI to put them in the places where they're going to resonate with your potential customers. And we're seeing it borne out in the numbers that is actually driving growth and increasing reach for brands.
Right. Okay. So you still need the human element because you need to decide what is the best route, but you need to set things up in the correct way. And once you do that, you trust the machine.
Yeah, I mean, you have to check the machine because it
Yeah.
doesn't always work. There's a huge element of testing and learning. I think as well, there is what you might think cosmetically is the best ad. And I'm sure, Simon, you can speak to this as well. What might appear to be the best ad doesn't necessarily end up being the best performing ad in the sense of the trackable numbers and the impact on your brand, which can also be an uncomfortable conversation because there might be an intuitive sense that this one should resonate more with our customers, but actually it's the alternative creative that drives the results.
Story
So
of my life.
but I guess that's where AI comes in, because what I wanted to ask you as well, going back to that previous conversation, was do you ever find you put in a prompt that seems very structured and has a very clear brief to the AI, and then it kind of spits out something that's completely surprising to you, and it's like that's a completely new angle on the brand that I never even thought of? Or does it track more like closely to what you actually input as a prompt?
Well, like when it comes to like audience research and stuff like that, sometimes we find like, oh, that's a really interesting angle I didn't think about that was important to that audience. Sometimes we already have an idea of what it may give us. We just want an organized version of that. And sometimes frustrating because you expect it to deliver something and it just goes a completely different direction. And sometimes you're like, oh, okay, that's true. But sometimes you also question that and realize the is not really analyzing the information properly, and that's the limitation sometimes of tools like ChatGPT, that they will help you, but you do need to really question, which goes back to the same PMax or the algorithms running what we do in paid social Advantage Plus, that they're meant to do a really good job, but they're still just machines. They don't have all the context. So if you don't give it enough context, it will start optimizing or doing things with limited information, and that is the limitation of AI, where humans are still needed, I believe.
So you guys speak from a perspective where you actually know a lot about AI. Let's say Katté client. I don't know anything about AI, and I think it's a really bad thing. I really don't. I just think it's horrible. I'm already running a lot of different campaigns across social and search. All over. Like I'm just so I love search. I love social, but I just think AI is trash. What would you tell me? Because what you're like, well, you said a lot of words that sound a bit like jargon.
Hmm.
What would you say to me? Do you think I should run AI? And actually, I'm not really sure. Or like use AI in any capacity. What would you tell me? What should I do?
Well, when it comes to running campaigns for paid social or paid media's sake, I think the main thing is really there's so many decisions, micro decisions to be made every second about where to bid, where not to bid, where to show your ads, where not to show them. We're not able to do that even if we sat down every day to do it. So the industry's been going in this direction for a really, really long time, where the machine learning algorithms take decisions much faster than we do, using many more signals. Now it's getting more stronger and stronger and stronger. So to say, no, we want to do it ourselves, basically just limiting the potential. So definitely it's a good thing. It's not a magic pill that you take and suddenly everything just works. You still need the human element, but definitely it's just going to do much more than we can. and that's just the paid media side of things. The others are just like, well, yeah, you're basically giving extra resource to whatever process you're running. So whether it's generating content or doing research, there's no reason why we should dislike it. I don't think you should trust it completely, and that's probably the fear sometimes. Like, oh, you're just doing everything AI, and AI is wrong.
No.
And yeah, if you do it like that, then no, it's not going to work, I think, or you're gonna run into problems eventually.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's a case of, well, what have you already got? Like, we don't have to use AI, but if you
But
have,
we need to at some point.
well,
That's the question.
I think there's always a there's always an element of panic when something new comes along. So smart bidding's a very good example. When smart bidding came along for search, it was the end of the world. We had no control over our CPCs anymore. We had one number that we could assign to campaigns. Everything was
So able to manually bid, or is that the thing of the past?
You can still do it, right?
well, you can still do it, but we heavily advise against it. This is back in black and white days, so.
All right, okay.
But yeah, everything's going to go wrong. We have no control anymore. We developed ways of controlling it. It became a tool that plugged into a much wider strategy. I think how AI is going to interact with society overall, nobody knows. But in terms of how it's going to interact with the platforms that we use day to day, it's going to become an enhancement tool for everything that we do. So I think if there's ever going to be a situation where you can only have AI driven creative, we are a decade plus away from that. I think there will always be a sense, especially for the bigger brands, that they want to maintain a very tight control over what they're showing to people. And it will just be an enhancement tool as opposed to something that we say you have to be using this. But I think also if you don't have the in-house resource to produce the creative that you want to put in front of customers, it's an incredibly powerful tool, and we shouldn't be scared of it because it can output some incredible results.
Yeah, that is fair. I do personally think, and that is just a personal view from, a very philosophical direction, I suppose. Thanks, Simon. I like you too. But I'm just thinking that I don't know, from personal point of view, I really love AI because, to your point, Alex, there's a lot we just don't know a lot. We don't really know what questions we should be asking about AI to begin with, because it changes all the time. You can't really keep up with anything. Tools are coming out on a daily basis. There's improvements all the time. But what I have spotted as a general trend from just a human side of things, let's say the internet, it's still fairly new, but if you live in a society or in a country like the UK, you kind of just need to have access to internet. You can't really do anything without it. You can't apply or talk to, I don't know, if that's like a visa or whatever. So like, I'm from European Union, right? I don't have a visa that's on paper. It's all online. So it's just the case of things that are big like that. When they happen, you probably just want to embrace them, so you're ahead of everyone else, in my view. But if you disagree, let me know. Maybe I'm just,
I
'cause
think it's the unintended consequences of any new technology, right?
yeah.
Like cars. I'm sure they didn't think it was going to be a huge problem that everyone was driving around in cars when they invented them. I think a good example of a problem is copyright. So it's currently an unsolved issue that if you use a tool like, say, Midjourney to create an image, who owns the copyright of that image? Is it your brand? Is it Midjourney? Is it the
Read
agency?
terms and conditions, Alex.
Oh, what does it say in the T's and C's?
I think it depends what kind of subscription you've got. Simple as
Really?
that.
Okay,
Yes.
so it depends
Yeah.
how much you're paying.
Yeah, if you've got a pro one, I think you can use it anywhere. If you're on the lowest one, I'm pretty sure you can't use it for any paid materials. But the thing is, no one really actually reads any terms of subscriptions. At least I don't. I don't know if any of you are responsible enough adults to do that. I'm not.
Oh.
Yeah. But there's not really a lot of laws around it, and there's no precedent. So technically, it's the Wild West, and you can do anything you want.
Because take for instance like the advert that everyone always mentions, every time they talk about a long-lasting ad, which is the Coca-Cola holidays are coming Christmas ad with the truck driving through town.
Christmas time.
There we go. If they'd created that with an AI tool now, they would have to know that 25 years from today, they would own the rights to be able to reuse that content wherever they wanted, whenever they wanted. I think that for brands using AI now to create images and create video, if you are looking to establish a brand image, it's a concern that you need to be addressing, because in 5 years' time, you don't want any kind of regulation or litigation coming in to say that amazing brand image you created is now no longer yours, because according to the terms and conditions of Midjourney, you never had the usage rights to it anyway.
Okay, but I do have a question. You know, cookies and all that, and all the laws surrounding cookies and how you're not supposed to drop cookies on anyone who just visited your site. How many of you have actually seen that not being followed? And it's been years now. Because I've
No,
done.
no comment.
What if I have checked if they're tracking me or something? So you're asking.
It's just the thing is, if you visit,
Are you asking, do cookie banners work? I think you are, Dawn.
I might be.
Filter that.
All I'm saying is that it takes years, because who's going to police that? Really, I do agree, Alex, to your point that if you're a really huge brand, you're probably a lot more considerate about it. And if we are being real and we're 100%, you know what, if you absolutely have to consider every single point in this, absolutely. But the reality of it is that there's no one to police it, and there's no laws to begin with. So do we actually need to consider this at this stage, or do we just dive in and be like, yeah, what we're doing this is amazing?
Yeah, I think eventually there's going to be some sort of regulation, but any new technology has come in, and there's going to be a period of time where people capitalize on it as much as possible, and then adapt based on whatever regulation comes in. And the same happened with, like, we were just talking earlier about Napster and downloading music and everything. So that was illegal in a way, or became illegal in a way, but it revolutionized music, access.
And no one's prosecuted for it.
Yeah.
Because I downloaded a lot of stuff when I was a kid, but no one's really come after me. So I think we might be okay.
Some people were prosecuted.
Okay, well, share that info after the podcast, please.
Yeah, basically it's, I think, it's going to be very hard to enforce. I feel like, I don't even know, like, there's lots of copyright conversation going on around, like, that content is based on other people, in other art from other people and stuff like that. But how do you actually, I mean, how does creativity and humanity work? You get inspiration from other people and you create art. So what, is that also based on them? I feel like it's a really great area, and I'll be very disappointed if they put lots of barriers to how that just expands and distributes organically.
So what you're saying, Simon, reminded me of something that producer Steph told me about Adobe training their AI on only their own stock images or copyright-free images to avoid any of these kind of copyright issues in the future. So I think there is some forward thinking going on among some of the providers. But it is interesting, the pragmatism versus idealism argument of, should we make hay while the sun shines, or do we need to be a bit more cautious with what we're producing for brands?
Yeah, I think Adobe being such a big company, they're probably thinking not just in what's going to happen and the legality of it, but their own perception as a brand, and that they're supporting artists and stuff like that, because I'm sure there's lots of backlash from the communities that are creating content already. Well, companies like Midjourney and stuff like that are really just pushing as far as they can and growing as far as they can until they have a chance. Same ChatGPT, they've taken so much information from lots of big publishing groups and everything without them knowing. So, which has led some lawsuits and stuff, but it's all worth it because they're growing to billions and billions worth of company creating technology. So yeah, so I think Adobe just maybe is a bit more cautious. They're already massive and they're trying to make a statement. But I don't know what's going to happen, but I find it really difficult that they would just legislate against the use of, I don't know, probably just need to, like, pay off people and keep going.
If anyone remembers, there used to be a lot of scandals around brand safety.
Yes.
What was it, 2017? Around that time, YouTube, there was an article every week. I fully expect that happened with AI at some point.
What kind of brand? What are you talking about?
So it used to be a big problem. People talked about content appearing next to just bad content, and you can, of course, still apply, and you should apply all of the brand safety measures. It's just no one talks about it anymore because it's not on the news. But from what I remember, it was always really huge brands that got into trouble. So the likes of, I don't know, if Coca-Cola was probably not the case because they're just too big to be in trouble of any kind at all. But bigger brands that were household names, but no one else really was in trouble, at least it wasn't in the news. So I do think that, as I said, there was going to be a bloodbath at some point, but it's just not, we shouldn't be worried about it just yet. But speaking of bloodbaths,
Just keep going with that.
I don't actually know where I'm
Oh,
going
come
with
on,
this.
keep going.
I was just thinking, so well, I've been telling these guys earlier on, several hours ago, that I was absolutely wired because I don't really have caffeine anymore. But I had a coffee because I couldn't sleep. So I thought that I would just ask ChatGPT right now if I should have had that coffee and just see what it tells me. So I'm just gonna type right now. I will say I oh no. So I quit coffee 2 months ago, but I just had one to feel more awake. Is that a good thing I did for myself or not?
Shall we have a quick guess
Believe
about
it or
what it's
not.
going
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
say?
Okay. Go for it.
I think it's going to say, it's really impressive that you have stopped having coffee for 2 months. Commendable effort. You can, and he's going to try to be as diplomatic as possible about.
Mm-hmm.
I
how
think
that
it's going to
goes.
say something like caffeine intake depends on several factors such as body weight, height,
Yes.
gender. Please consult your doctor before deciding whether to drink any more coffee.
Ding, 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 ding. Alex. So, to quote ChatGPT, deciding to quit or reduce coffee intake can have various effects on individuals depending on their health, lifestyle, and reasons for quitting. Here are some considerations. Not going to read all of it, but it's physical effects, dependency, mental health, personal goals, motivation. Ultimately, the decision to have coffee again after quitting is a personal one. So it didn't help me at all. Simon, you told us that it helps you
Okay,
all
go
the
on.
time. It's your
Right.
little help.
All the caffeine.
Yeah, I mean, to come to think about it, I wouldn't want it to tell me I did good by stopping my daily coffee routine. So,
I might try that though with ChatGPT when I get back to work. Tell me I did good. Tell me I've done a good job today.
Alex is asking, and I'm asking ChatGPT again.
Okay.
Alex is asking you if he did good today.
This is dependent on Alex's height, body weight, gender.
Without knowing the specific details of your day, it's challenging to provide a definite answer. It's helping.
He's trying.
It's helping.
He's trying.
Would you say that it could become your personal therapist, for example? Or like, what is the role of AI in your lives at the moment? I'm not saying it's uni therapy or anything, but
yeah, personally, I use it for a lot of stuff. So, one is just dipping into knowledge very easily and finding it really quickly. So then you can just expand on it and have a conversation with, ask questions. But personally, I have to say I have used it to like just talk about life, and it's really good at just kind of helping you come up with solutions of things. So not necessarily telling you what to do, but just maybe like helping you to have someone to speak to. So not
Your
like,
best
yeah, I
friend.
mean, no, I don't have anyone to speak to. Then ChatGPT is my new friend. But
I hope your wife doesn't listen to this.
no, honestly, I mean, there's now so many apps and stuff like that that are just coming out with that purpose. And there's some, I would have to say, a bit sad ones that are like your AI girlfriend. and you download your girlfriend, and the girlfriend talks back to you.
Like
stuff
that Spike Jones film. Is it Spike Jones film with Joaquin Phoenix in, where
Oh
he
yeah,
falls in love
yeah,
with
yeah,
his
but yeah,
AI
exactly.
assistant?
And there's many people that actually, yeah, they don't have anyone to speak to. So yeah, I guess that's just the beginning. What Google, Microsoft, ChatGPT, even Facebook want to do is the assistant, creating those assistants. So I think eventually it's going to become a lot about making those conversations very organic. There's now hardware that you put in your jacket and you talk to AI a bit easier, that they're like an early beta and kind of launching. So that's definitely going to be more, it's more of a reality, you know. I mean, everyone can just talk to it. Maybe you just want to talk about sports and stuff, but some people really go deep into therapy, and actually it can help. So fair game.
If you're our if you are our client, you're not lonely. You can talk to us, and you can talk to us about AI and how you should use it.
Yes. Pass on all queries to ChatGPT.
I was going to say I use it a lot less than I thought I would, and I haven't really worked out why yet. I thought I would be a big fan of it. I do use it a lot at work, but it's not actually made its way into my social life yet, and I don't really understand why I haven't. I don't go to it. Sometimes I think, oh, I'll use it and see what it shows me, but not really got into the habit yet of incorporating it into my day-to-day life. And normally I'm all over this stuff, so I don't have any particular skepticism about it or cynicism about it either. I wonder if I'm one of those people for like whom the text box is not the way that I want to use it. I feel like it's still very limited by the interfaces that are being given to us. Like,
Yeah.
even if you talk to it, it still basically translates that into a string of text that then goes into the same system. And I'm really interested about maybe a AI that you can give permission for it to listen to you for certain periods of time and give you feedback based, like note-taking software, for instance. That's becoming more and more sophisticated and giving you summaries of meetings, and Google Meet's introducing these new functions where it can give you a kind of catch up on your meeting, where if you join 10 minutes late, it could say, this person said this person said that, and it will pass the
Sorry, just to stop you there. I thought that our phones are already listening to us at all times. That's what I hear from people like, oh, is Facebook listening to me?
Yeah,
That
when you say recording at all times, but yeah, that's happening anyway.
is that true,
What?
Simon?
Facebook is listening to us all the time.
Exactly. Is that true? Tell us. You tell
Officially,
me.
no. That's the official from all these companies. Like, oh, we would never do that. That's in fact, some of these hardware things that I was telling you about, I don't remember the two. I think bunny or something, or rabbit, or there's some things that you put in your jacket. They really promise that they're not recording you, and they put lots of placeholders and lots of warnings to say, yeah, this means that we're not recording you, and they're really making sure to tell people that that's not happening. But the reason why they have to do that is because clearly there is some listening going on. I mean, it has to be. I mean, I remember I was talking to,
Hey, Google.
yeah, I mean,
Did anyone's phone activate? No?
no,
Okay, so maybe they're not listening.
no, not right now. But yeah, basically, I remember the other day I was talking to a friend, and we were talking about laptops in Slack. And I was like, oh, you should get this laptop. Yeah. And then I went to Facebook, and well, that's not listening, but still, it kind of knew that I has a conversation in Slack, and then it started serving me ads on Facebook for laptops for that brand that we were talking about. So there is lots of data sharing, lots of data collecting that is happening with text and audio, and yeah.
Which one's more scary? The idea that they're always listening to you so they can serve you these ads at the right time, or the idea that they can know so much about you without listening to you that they can make you think they're listening to you?
The first one for me, at least.
The actual active listening.
Uh-huh. Because it's not very difficult to know what someone is going to do if you read everything that they have done. It's almost physics, right? So if you know the position of every single atom, you can predict the future. We've got weather forecasts. It's kind of the same thing, but it predicts people's behavior. So if you've got people's behavior already, that's what they're doing. But if you're actually listening to me, that is private. So nah, thanks.
So it's more the invasion of privacy than the okay.
I just think they just collect all of that stuff to create like big models. I never feel like it's about me, and that they know that they're all sitting around the computer and just, hey, look, check out what Dawn was talking about. I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, I've never felt like
I'm an interesting person, Simon.
I've never felt like it's oh, they know everything about me, or I mean, unless like one day I'm a fugitive and then they know everything about me, then that's a problem. But at the moment, I don't think they care who am I. I'm just another data point.
Okay, that's fine. But we already know that ChatGPT is your best friend. What is going to take for ChatGPT to become your best friend, Alex?
You're sending me down a rabbit hole thinking about my entire life now. I think it's going to ChatGPT is going to have to offer me something that I cannot get elsewhere. So I think it's incredibly convenient. A lot of the time, it provides information that on face value is incredibly useful. But if there's ever something that I really want to know and ChatGPT tells me it, I have to go and check. And I don't know whether that's just kind of like a new technology thing or a generational thing, but I have to go, okay, so it told me that fact. I need to go to Wikipedia, check what Wikipedia references. Like I have a very what I would call a healthy skepticism of any information, any factual information it provides me with. And the information it provides me with that is not factual, I don't find particularly compelling at the moment. So it either has to become a lot more friendly and a lot more conversational and like a person, or it needs some way to verify the information it's given me in a way that will give me confidence. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to make its way into my life beyond work.
Okay, so at work, you would give
Oh,
it
at work,
a
anything
thumbs
goes. I'll
up.
tell anyone anything at work at all.
Controversial. Clients don't listen to Alex. He doesn't know what he's talking about. With that, I think it's time to wrap up. Thank you so much for listening today. Again, if you're a client, let's have a chat. There is definitely a use case for your business. It's definitely going to be useful. And if you jump on the ship early, you will reap the benefits early too. Thank you for listening and see you soon.
Thanks, guys.